guys, good day everyone. This is the Creators Lodge and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys the breakdown of this design, how I created this design and the elements I made use of in creating this design. Please, if this is your first time coming across my channel, please do well to like this video, do well to subscribe and turn on the notification button so that when next I upload a tutorial video like this, YouTube will notify you. Alright guys, let's get into the tutorial. Now in today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing us the breakdown of this design, this flyer. Now this is a church flyer design, and when you look at this flyer, you're going to see that the theme is revival agents. Now if you have been following me for a while now, if you're familiar with my tutorials, you will see that I usually explain the reason why I use the elements I make use of in my design. I don't just put in elements on my design, I explain the reason why I make use of the elements I use in my design. Now this is a church flyer design and the theme says revival agents. The theme says revival agents. So I'm going to explain this flyer and then I'm going to show us the breakdown of this flyer. Now, when you look at this design, you are going to see the USA flag right here at the top where my cursor is. You're going to see the USA flag right here. When you look at the side of this design, you are going to see soldiers. All right, there are two soldiers here, but I blended this image. So one of the soldier looks kind of invisible, right? But it's right here where my mouse is. Now when you look at this side, you're going to see this soldier clearly revealed, all right, putting on the armor, putting on the shield, the helmet, right? Now the theme says revival agents, so it means that there's a storyline behind this, because revival agents, all right, they are people that are saddled with the responsibility of causing revival in a place, bringing the revival fire in a place. All right, so you go to a place and then maybe a state, a nation, and then when you get there, you discover that people in that nation, they are cold, people in that nation, they are lukewarm. All right, they don't have hunger for the things of God, their fire is down. When you go there, if you go there with a charged battery of 100%, and when I say charged battery, I'm saying that if your fire level, all right, your hunger for God, maybe it's about 100 level, the percentage is about 100%. Now when you go to such areas and you discover that the spiritual atmosphere there or the presence of the Lord there is not strong, they can literally douse your energy. All right, they can douse your energy. So revival agents, they are sent into territories, they are sent, and then their main duty or their primary assignment is to ensure that they revive the people there. Now one thing you need to understand about revival agents is that they themselves, they must first be revived. It takes a revived man to revive a territory. It takes revived agents to revive a dead territory. So it means that the revival agents are people that are already equipped with the fire they need, equipped with the wisdom of God that they need, equipped with the adequate word of God that they need. So they are first equipped and then they are sent out. When you read the scripture, when Jesus was sending out his disciples, he sent them equipped. He gave them the necessary authority they need. He said, I give you power and authority. Said, I give you power and authority. So he gave them the necessary authority they need. So when they went out in his name, they were casting out demons in his name because they had the authority. They were already revived. So they could go out there and speak to demons, cast out demons from the body of people that were possessed or oppressed by demons and devils. They could do that because they were already revived. They were given the authority to do that. So revived agents are first revived. So that is the reason for this picture here. All right, that's the reason for this picture of these soldiers putting on armor, ready for war. It means that they are revived. It means that they are now equipped and they are ready to be sent out into territories that needs revival. So this image is not just here because I feel like putting the image here. The image helps amplify the message, amplify the theme of this program, of this meeting, which is revival agents. So you see soldiers that are equipped, that are already revived, and they are ready to be sent out. So there's a marching order for them. So that's the reason for this picture here. And when you look at the flag creates an emphasis saying that this program is going to be held in the United States of America. So the viewers do not need to be confused. All they need to do, immediately they open this flyer, all they need to do is to see the United States of America's flag. It will, tell a message. It's going to call their attention to the fact that this meeting is going to hold in the USA. No other place but USA. So it emphasizes the location where this revival is going to take place. So revival agents, where are they sent to? Where are they going to be sent to? The United States of America. So it's emphasizing that this revival is taking place in a territory. Now, when you look at the venue, 806, when you look at the venue, you are going to see right here that I've already written the USA here. But I needed to create an emphasis that there's a location, there's a territory where this meeting is holding, and that's the reason for this flag. So people don't get confused trying to check out in the venue. All they need to do is to see the flag and they are good to go. Now, when you look at this background, you are going to see that the background brings that fierce feel. Now, I'm talking about revival agent. I didn't go ahead adding fruits, different kinds of fruits like grapes, like, oranges, and, different kinds of fruits. I didn't go ahead adding fruits on this design. There are some things you add on your design that are not necessary. There are some things you add on your design that do not communicate the message of the design. So every time you want to do a design, or anytime you want to do a design, always ensure you make use of elements that effectively pass the message of the design across. If it's not adding value to the design, you don't need to add such elements on your design. Even if the element looks beautiful, even if it looks amazing, as long as it's not communicating a message, you don't need to add the element on this design. You don't need to. Now, sometimes there are some little elements you can add as long as it does not distract the viewers from the message. Guys, every time you make use of an element on your design, it is to the end that the viewers get the message of the design. It is not to the end that it distracts the viewers from the message of the design. Now, when you look at the left-hand side of this design, you are going to see this glass, more like this glass background, this glass pattern. All right. Now, the essence of this is to bring more aesthetics to this design and to bring to create beauty on this design. All right. That's the essence of this. Now, when you look at this here and you look at the sum total, the old design, you will notice that this aligns with the design. There's no distraction. So if by any means you want to use an element that does not exactly communicate or does not exactly enhances, or how do I say it now? It does not exactly amplifies the theme of the design. Please do ensure that that element does not distract the viewers, does not distract the message. It has to blend with the message. So you look here, you see a glass, background that I placed here. Now, when you look at this side of the design, so I'm just going to move this ruler here. When you look at this side of the design, all right, so I'm just going to bring it up so that we can see. So these are my layer panel right here. Everything here, this is my layer panel. So every element right here on this design, you're going to find them here on the layer panel. All right, everything you're going to find them here on the layer panel. So I want to look for the charge icon. So this is the charge icon. Now, when you look at this icon here, you're going to see it looks like the charge icon. So this is the charge icon. Now, if you're charging your phone, when you look at your phone, so I want to believe that every Android phone has this. When you look at your phone, when you look at the battery percentage when the phone is charging, you are going to see that energy icon, that charge icon. Or sometimes when you are charging your PC, when you look at the battery level, you're going to see that charge icon, that energy icon, and there's a reason why it's here. It still communicates the message. Remember, when I was explaining this flyer, I said that revival agents must first be charged. Revival agents must first be equipped. Revival agents must first be revived. So the charge icon here is to further enforce it, or to further amplify that message, that it has to do with being charged, it has to do with being equipped, it has to do with being revived. So that is the reason why this charge icon is right here on this design. So it's a well thought creative plan. It's a well thought one. So I didn't just go ahead adding charge icon here without it, if having a vital role that's playing on this design. So there's a vital role that the charge icon plays on this design, and it further emphasizes the message or the theme of this meeting, of this design. All right, so you see the charge icon, and then when you come here, you see the ministers, the lined up ministers. You see this great man of God, Evangelist Sunday Uche. You see this great man of God. You see this great man of God. Now you see the guest ministers are aligned in one place. You see the guest ministers are aligned. You see the names of the guest ministers well aligned. I'm using the same font. Now, I didn't use a different font to write Sunday Uguche, and another different font to write Taiwo Lawson, and another different font to write Shalom Dates. You can see consistency in the name, the writing of the name. You see consistent use of font. You see the same font I used, and this Big Shoulders font. All right, Sunday Uguche, I used Big Shoulders font. Same thing for the Taiwo Lawson. Same thing for the Shalom Dates. The same typeface, big shoulder typeface. All right, the same typeface. And then when you look at the evangelist, the music minister, the same typeface. I made use of the Montserrat typeface. All right, now when you look at this, also the location, the venue, it's the same typeface as the big shoulder, but different font. All right, it's the same typeface but different font. All right, the same typeface, same big shoulder typeface, but for this Sunday Oguche, I made use of, I'm going to be showing us the layers right now. All right, so I think when I start showing us the layers, I'm going to tell you guys what font, what typeface I made use of, and what font. All right, so you can have different fonts under a particular typeface. So for instance, this typeface now, that is big shoulder, there are different fonts under it. So you can have big shoulder semi-bold, you can have big shoulder bold. So big shoulder semi-bold is a font, big shoulder bold is a font, big shoulder medium is also a font, big shoulder italic is also a font, but the name big shoulder is a typeface. So it's just like you having a surname, and then there are different children bearing the same surname. So someone can be bearing the name, the surname Daniel. All right, now then Daniel can be the father, but under that surname Daniel, you have different children bearing that surname Daniel. So you can have Daniel John, you can have Daniel Joshua, you can have Daniel Zacchaeus. So John, Joshua, Zacchaeus, John Daniel, Joshua Daniel, Zacchaeus Daniel, they are fonts. So but the name Daniel is the typeface. All right, so you can have different fonts under a typeface. So when I start showing us the layers, each of the layers of this design, I'm going to be telling us the fonts, each of the fonts and the typeface I made use of. All right, but sometimes in graphic design, when we mention these things, we use them interchangeably, sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously. For me personally now, I make use of typeface and font, interchangeably, unconsciously most times. All right, most times. But when I want to teach, when I'm deliberate, right, I have to say the difference between the two of them. But most times I make use of both of them interchangeably. Right. So, and also you look at the also ministering, you see Pastor Tishe Oyetunji, right? Now you look at this lineup of guest ministers, you will notice that they are all lined the same, in the same order. All right, I'm making use of my meter rule to show you that they are in the same order. You can see the progression this way down like this. So you see they are all lined in the same order, right? All lined in the same order. So I'm just going to move this meter rule away. All right, so now you come down here and then you see this text, end time recruitment to advance the Lord's kingdom. So everything in this design is well structured. You look at the background, you look at the color. I didn't make use of multiple colors on this design. If you look at this color, if you look at the design, you're going to see that the dominant color on this design is the red color, right? And then you go ahead to see the yellow color, which is scarcely used. All right, it's not part of the dominant color on this design. It was scarcely used on this design. And then you go ahead to see, yeah, the flag of United States of America also has red, so you see it blends well. And then you go ahead to see blue, just a touch of blue, part of the flag that has a touch of blue. All right, so the colors are critically sorted out. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to show us the layers. All right, so I'm just going to delete this. So this is the main design. This is the main design. Okay, let me not delete this. I'm going to just hide the layer. So let's start from here. So this is the background. All right, so this is the background, and the size I used, I'm going to show us the canvas size for this design. I made use of the size. The width is 3000, and then the height is 3500. So the width is 3000, and then the height is 3500. So this is not an A4 size, and I'm not creating this as a standard that when you are creating your design, you should make use of 3000 width and 3500 as the height of your design. But I love this size because it works well for my Instagram. I love it because it works very well for my social media. If I want to post designs on my social media and on my Instagram, I love this because the size is perfect. I love it. It's perfect. But if I want to print out the design now as an A4 flyer, I'll have to change the size to A4 size. But aside that, I love this. And please don't get confused by this this new size that says 30 mega and then this current size 30 mega. You don't have to worry about that. When you save the design, you're going to see that the megabytes can just be 9 megabytes or 8 megabytes thereabout. All right, so the next thing, and by the way, I'm using Photoshop 2025. If you want to ask what Photoshop am I making use of, Photoshop 2025. And then so now the first layer I'm going to reveal is this layer, which is this background. Now I downloaded this background from Pinterest. All right, usually I get my backgrounds from Pinterest, and I also get my backgrounds from FreePic, but most of the times I get it from Pinterest. Now when you look at this background, you are going to see that it looks like there's this glass effect on this background. It looks like there's a glass effect on this background because when you look at it, you're going to see either a glass effect or water ripple, ocean ripple effect on this background. That's an effect that I got in Photoshop, and I'm going to be showing us what the effect is and why I make use of the effect. All right, so now when you look at here, you're going to see my layer panel here. You're going to see the effect under the smart filters. So I'm going to make the effect invisible. All right, and the reason why I'm making the effect invisible is because I want to show us the effect that I made use of. So I'm going to make the effect invisible. So this layer is locked, so let me unlock this layer. All right, now great. Now I just made the filter gallery invisible so that I can show you all what the background looks like when I got it from Pinterest. So this is what the background looks like. Can you see how blurry this background is? Can you see how blurry? It's not cool. It's not cool. It's very blurry. Can you see how blurry this background is? Can you see how blurry? Very blurry background. All right, so now personally for me, I don't like making use of backgrounds that I download from Pinterest like that, like downloading them from Pinterest and immediately using them like that on my design. Most times I don't like doing that because most of the backgrounds on Pinterest are not quality enough, and sometimes the backgrounds on Pinterest were created by people. So usually when I want to make use of those backgrounds on my design, I like to do my own personal manipulation because I'm not a fan of you getting someone's background from the person's social media account and then using it directly on your design. I'm not a fan of that. All right, so I like that when I get backgrounds from Pinterest, I work on the background, I do some manipulations, I blend backgrounds together, and I achieve my own background. That's as a creative, you need to know how to do this. As a creative, it's very important for you to know how to manipulate backgrounds together and get your own background for your design. So when you bring in people's background and then you just use that background like that on your design, you didn't do anything. You didn't create anything. you were not inspired. You literally brought someone's work and then you built on it, and then you didn't make significant changes on the background. So for me, I'm not a fan of that. I don't like doing that. So I have to create some effect. So I have to do some manipulations on the backgrounds before I can use them. And usually the backgrounds are blurry from Pinterest. So each time I bring in a blurry background from Pinterest, I usually blur those backgrounds again in the Photoshop application. So what do I mean? Now when you bring in a background like this that is blurry from Pinterest, so you click on the background and remember you have to change it to smart object. So this is already a smart object. You will see the icon here. That's what you are seeing here. So I can double click inside of this and then you see this is a smart object. All right. So when I click on this background now, so let's assume there was no effect on this background. So I'm going to click on filter and then I'm going to click on blur. All right. So under this filter, there are different blur, effects, and there are different effects you can make use of aside blur. There are different effects. So I'm going to click on blur and then you see Gaussian blur. So usually I can make use of Gaussian blur. So when you click on Gaussian blur, now you will see that the background is going to be blurry. All right, but now the idea behind this is to control the blurriness, if there's a word like that, to control the degree of that blurriness. You are controlling it yourself, not like you imported it from Pinterest and then it's having this blur effect that you don't like. So you are now the one controlling the blur effect on the background. So that's the idea of blurring it again through the filter effect in the Photoshop application. So now you can see it's showing the radius, like the radius is 8.4. So I can go ahead to increase the radius, but usually I don't increase it much. So I can reduce the radius this way, like this. So you see, the more you reduce, the more the effect wears off. So if you have something like this, it's cool, 34.6%. So I can blur it this way. This is me controlling the blur effect now to my desired taste. So if I zoom in now, you will see the blur is well organized. I'm looking for a better way to explain this. The blur effect on this background is well organized and is not scattered like the way it was before. So let me show you guys what it was before. You will see, look how it is before. It's looking too blurry. It's looking too, you could tell that this is not quality enough. Yes, that's the better word to use. You could tell that this background is not quality enough because of that blur effect that was there when we downloaded it from Pinterest. So but now when I click on that blur effect I added, it is now organized. Though it's still blurry, but it's now organized. So that's the idea of me having to blur my designs, use the effect on my designs when I download from Pinterest application or other application that has the blur effect. That's the idea. All right, but now aside that, okay, so I'm trying to undo. Yeah, great. So aside the normal Gaussian blur, there are other blurs you can use. All right, there are other blurs you can use. I don't want this tutorial to be too long, so I'm going to start running now. So aside the Gaussian blur, you can use the radial blur. So once I click radial blur, it's going to ask how many percent you want to blur background by. So the radial blur is to blur this background in a circular form. All right, in a circular form. So I can increase to 20. I can give good. All right, sometimes when I click best, your system might try to lag. So if you don't have enough dedicated graphics card for your system and you don't have enough space, I would advise you, when you are using radial blur, do not use the best quality, stay on the good, because sometimes when you click the best, it begins to use enough enough memory to perform the effect, and usually your system can begin to hang. All right, so I'm going to click 20 and click OK. So you can see that radial effect. Can you see the blur? The blur effect now is in a radial form. All right, so you can use that. But the one I love to use most of the time is the filter gallery. All right, which is this glass effect or this ocean ripple effect. All right, so and you can find it in still that same filter icon. So let's go there. I'm going to click filter and I'm going to click filter gallery. So I'm not clicking blur right now and I'm not clicking blur gallery. I'm going to click filter gallery, and then when I click filter gallery, it's going to display different filter galleries. All right, so I'm going to zoom this out so you can see This is the one I usually make use of. So let's start. You can see artistic. So I'm not explaining that. That's not for, all these are not for today's tutorial. I'm just showing you guys what I used. So you see artistic, it has different effects that you can choose. And as you're choosing those effects, you'll be seeing the changes happening right here. All right. So you see artistic. All right. From the word artistic, you should already have the idea of, what it means when you start using any of those effects under the artistic, section. Now you see brush strokes. When you click on any of these brush strokes, you're going to see the effects it's going to bring up. Now there's another one, distort, and this is where I usually camp. This is where I love. All right, this is where I love, the most. Now all these other effects are amazing. These ones I'm mentioning, sketch style, texture, they are amazing. But I love this distort. All right, I love this distort. So in this distort text section, you'll see diffuse glow. Now this diffuse glow is still making it look that like the quality is not sharp enough. So usually I make use of glass. So once you click on glass, automatically your background has this glass effect. All right, some of us that have these louvers at home, when you check your louvers, you will see this effect that is on this design right now. You will see it on your louvers. So that glass effect, it gives the design that glass effect, and the glass effect usually, it's amazing on your design. It's amazing on the background, right? So it gives it that effect. So, and if you don't want to use this glass effect, now you can increase the distortion, you can reduce. All right, I can decide to reduce. The more I reduce, the more the effect, wears off on this design. All right, and when I increase, it increases the effect also of the glass. So can you see this? So this is 18, and then the glass effect is increased to 18. So I can reduce it to 12, and then it's minimized. All right, and then you can work out the smoothness. All right, you can work out different effects here. All right, but usually for me, I don't usually like to work out the smoothness. I just leave it at 2, which is the default that it was before. So you can leave it at 2. All right, like this, and then you can also work out the scaling, 100 and all that. All right, so this is the glass effect. All right, this is the glass effect. You can see that it's now looking smooth. So the glass effect helps it, it gives it that you would love it when you try it out. All right, you will love it when you try it out. Now, if you don't want to use the glass effect, you can use the ocean ripple. Now, the ocean ripple is like the glass effect too, but it has this ocean, this ocean effect. All right, that's why it's called the ocean ripple, effect. So you can reduce the ripple size if it's too much, and then you can increase the ripple size. All right, if you want it to be much on your design, you can work on the ripple magnitude also. So how much effect of that ripple do you want? All right, so that's ripple magnitude. So this is what I used to create the effect on my background. All right, distort, and I used the glass, and that's how I got this particular effect. I'm going to hide the layer. That's how I got this particular glass effect on this design. All right, so let's go on. So that's the first layer I've unveiled. Now the second layer I'm going to unveil is this layer. Now I'm going to disable the layer marks so that you can see the layer. Now this is the layer. This is what it looks like. Now same thing for this background. I downloaded this background from Pinterest. This is a background. All right, so I'll hide it and I'll unhide it. So this is a background, but the only thing I needed on this background, I didn't need the chain, because the theme says revival agent, so there's no need for a breaking of chain here. That's not what we are doing here. We're trying to equip people. All right, so there was no need for me to use this and having this chain. All I needed, I saw this background. I love the bottom part of the background, so I decided to download it. So when I downloaded it, I brought it into Pinterest, and what you need to do is to add a layer mask. And to add a layer mask, you go to this bottom part here, and when you go to this bottom part, when you go to this bottom part, you will see this layer mask icon here. It will say add the layer mask. All right, so once you click on it, you can add the layer mask. So I clicked on the icon. All right, I clicked on this, and I clicked on this icon here, and I added a layer mask. So you can see it, vector mask, layer mask. All right, but I already have one. I just disabled the effect so that I can show you all what the background looks like. So I'm going to undo this. So I had a layer mask here. All right, so, and I can even, let me delete the layer mask. So let me delete the layer mask so that I'll show you guys what it looks like. So this is the design, and do not forget, it has to be in smart object. So how do you change a design to a background to smart object? Usually some updated versions of Photoshop automatically changes your background to smart object. It's a setting. All you need to do is to work it out. You go to your file, you go to edit, you go to preference, and then you work it out from preference. All right, but I don't think I want to go into that now. Go into preference, you go into general, and then It's one of these settings. Yeah, look at it. So when you go to your edit, you go to your preference, you go to general, you click on this, always create smart objects when placing. So anytime you are inserting a background into your Photoshop will automatically change it into a smart object, because there are some effects. Why is smart object important? There are some effects you cannot achieve. So you can add some effects on your background except you change your design to smart object. And usually smart object helps you to retain the quality of the design. So for instance, if I'm increasing or reducing this design, the quality will still be sustained because it's a smart object. It's like a locked object. All right, so that's the advantage of creating your design, making your design smart object. So and to make your design smart object, you'd click on whatever layer of the design it is, or the background, and then you right click, and then you see convert to smart object. So once you click convert to smart object, it's going to convert to smart object. So that's how I create smart object. All right, so this is the design. I need just the bottom part. I don't want the top part of the design. So remember, you click on it, and then you click on layer mask, and then you click on layer mask, and then you have this white stuff here, which is your layer mask. And then the next thing you go ahead to do is to click on your color. You can click here, you right click, and then you click on the gradient tool. You can do that, or the short form is to click on letter G. So once you click on letter G, you're going to have your gradient tool. Now you click inside of this color palette. Now the gradient I had is transparent. So here, the color setup here the color is going to be black. You choose black, and the opacity here is also going to be 100. Now for the second part, the color is going to be black, all right, but the opacity is going to be 0. Sorry, that was a mistake. Yeah, the opacity is going to be 0. So you can see the opacity is 0, and then you choose the color black. All right, so once you do that, you have a transparent gradient, and then you place your mouse at the top of the image, and then you hold your shift, and then you left click, all right, or you click your mouse, and then you drag down. And once you do that, what happens is that the effect is going to take place. All right, so you keep doing that. So can you see that? So you keep doing that. So I keep doing that until the chain is no longer visible. All right, I keep doing that until the chain is no longer visible. So can you see this now? Now, some persons will ask, can't I use my eraser tool to do that? Yeah, you can use your eraser tool to do that, but the gradient tool gives it the quickest results, and that amazing blend. All right, now you can also use your eraser tool to achieve that, but I love using the gradient tool. All you need to do is to change the color, change the gradient style to linear gradient. You can see that linear gradient. If you check here, this radial, change to linear, and then click inside of the gradient, the color, you choose black, you choose 100 opacity, you choose 0 opacity. If you make this opacity 100, you'll have black here, and it's not going to give you that blend feel. All right, so you can see that now what I did now is now reflecting inside of the layer mask. And when you are doing your gradient, ensure that you select the layer mask, not the background, but the layer mask, so that the effect will take place on the layer mask. So that's how I got that background. All right, now let's move on. All right, so the next thing is I added the charge icon. So you can see this. So this icon, I downloaded it also from Pinterest. You can see. All right, now if you follow this design, you will notice that all I'm doing is I'm manipulating backgrounds. I'm blending backgrounds together. I'm adding effects. If you notice, I'm manipulating backgrounds. Remember I said it, every background I bring in from Pinterest, I don't use it exactly like that. I have to manipulate and change stuffs on the background. All right, so you can see this is the charge icon, which I'm highlighting here. So I also added filter, which is the glass filter. And the reason is because when I downloaded the charge icon tool was also having this blur effect that makes it looks like it's not quality enough. All right, so I didn't want to use it that way on my design, so I had to add the filter gallery effect, which is the glass effect that I showed you all. So this is the glass effect. Now see what it looks like. It blends well with the design. All right, now also when I downloaded the charge icon, the charge icon was having a different color. So this is the color, is a blue color. All right, I downloaded it having this blue color. So what I did was to add my hue and saturation, which is this. All right, so you see my hue, I used 137 hue, and then saturation 0, light 0. So the idea is to ensure that the charge icon has a color that is similar to the color on the background, so that it blends well with the background. So that is the idea. All All right, so I have the charge icon here, which is the second element I used on this design. The next one I used on this design is the warrior, the warrior image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable this layer so you can see what the warrior image looks like, and then I'm also going to bring the layer to the middle so that you can see the complete image. I'm going to delete this so you can see. I'm going to make this normal. So this is the image which I downloaded from FreePic. So you can see this is the warrior image which I downloaded. All right, but you can't place this image like this on your design. The image is not looking like it's blending to the background, and the image is having a contrast feel with your background. So it means that you need to work on this image, blend the image, manipulate stuffs until you get your perfect feel. So I clicked on Ctrl Z. So this is it. All right, so so I'm going to disable this layer mask so that you can see. So when I disable this layer mask, so I added layer mask to this, and then I blended it using my gradient. Exact thing I did for the background that has the chain, that was the exact thing I did for this image also. So you blend this part, and then you blend this part so that it can blend well, because this image has sharp edges on this design like this. It has sharp edges, so you need to blend the edges of this image so that it can fit well, and the image strategically positioned here so that it can effectively communicate the message that is designed to communicate and not affect other details on the design. That is the reason why the image is strategically positioned here. All right, so I'm going to enable the layer mask now so you can see it. So you see, and then I changed the blend mode to soft light. Now if you look at this, the blend mode is normal. All right, the blend mode is normal. Now I can leave it like this, but I didn't want to leave it like this because this image is not exactly looking like it is part of the background. So I needed it to be inside of the background, like to blend well, like to relate with the background. So I need to change the blend mode. So I clicked on this blend mode here. This is where your blend mode is. When you click on an element or a background, you click on here, and then you can choose different blend modes. There were different blend modes that I could choose from. You see, different blend modes, but I decided to go with this soft light because the soft light did a great job for me. So I went ahead with the soft light. All right. Now the next thing I added is the minister's icon. So you can see the minister's icon, you see the evangelist icon, you see the two guest ministers icon. And now if you notice, all my elements, if you notice, they are automatically in smart object. Now this is the icon that reveals they are smart object. This stuff here reveals that they are in smart object. Can you see it? Smart object thumbnail. So when your background or image has this icon here, it means that it's already a smart object. So you can see the evangelist, and then you see the two ministers here. All right, carefully placed. All right, now let's move ahead. Having gotten the minister's icon, the minister's images, sorry, the next thing I went ahead to do is to add the glass, the glass effect that I talked about when I was explaining this design. So this is the glass effect. I downloaded it also, from the Pinterest application, but I went ahead to add the gradient blending. I blended the background, the image, using the gradient icon, the same icon the gradient tool, the same tool I used in blending the background that has the hand with chains. All right, that's the same tool, same method. All right, so let me enable the layer mask. So you see, blends well with the background. All right, so that place looks like there's a feel. Now I can decide to do the design without adding that to it, but like I said, this element gave more beauty to this design. All right, it gave more beauty to this design, so I added that. All right, now side background, there was something I added here too again. All right, so I'm going to show you guys the composition. So it's more like a background also, but okay, let me unlock the layer. It's on the screen mode. So this is it. It's more like a background that has this light effect, this dispersion of light. All right, but I wanted it to be cool and calm, so I made it screen. So can you see it? And then there's this hue. All right, so usually I make use of hue when I notice that whatever background I'm bringing in on my design is not exactly having the same color of the background. Whatever image I brought in, if it's not having the same color like the background, or if the color is not blending with the background, I use the hue to manipulate stuffs. All right, so that's why I use hue. All right, so you can see this icon here, and then you see this bright effect here. So I place this bright effect here because this part of the design is kind of too dark. All right, and that's where the text revival agents will stay. So let me make the text visible. So this is the text revival agents. So this part is kind of too dark. All right, so I didn't want it to be too dark, so I created that bright effect, all right, here, so that it won't look too dark. All right, so, and the bright effect, what I did was to create a layer. So you click on new, all right, you click on new, you click on this letter T here at the bottom, you see create a new layer. So I click on that new, and then I click on letter B, or you can go here and choose your brush. No, sorry, this eraser. You come here, and then here, you come here, you choose your brush tool. But if you don't want to choose it from here, you can click on letter B. All right, it will automatically change to brush tool, and then you right click, you increase the size a little bit. It's too much. You increase the size a little bit. Nah, it's too small. So something like this, and then you ensure that you select the soft brush, which is this. All right, and then you ensure that at the color here, the four color. So this is the background color. You see set background color, and then you see set foreground color. So I click the foreground color, and then you see the eyedrop tool. I usually call it eyedrop tool. All right, so you use that to pick the red color from your background, very red color, not something too bright. All right, a mist red color. You click OK, and then you tap once on your screen. You click just once on your screen, so you can see you have that that red stuff on your screen. So when you reveal the revival agent is now staying on that red, that red bright effect that you created. So that's the reason for me creating that bright effect, and that's how I created it. All right, so this is the effect, and then we have revival agent, which is the text. Now this text, this is where I get to talk about the text and font, the typeface I used. So when you click on my text, all right, you see, now you can see it here, big shoulder display. So can you see this? I made use of big shoulder display for the font. You can see it here, big shoulder display. All right, that's what I made use of. All right, now when you come here, you're going to see the font family. You see set font style. All right, set font style. All right, so I made use of big shoulder and then black, big shoulder black. Now if I change this to big shoulder extra bold, the thickness or the size of the text is going to be reduced. And if I change it also to big shoulder light, the size is going to be reduced. Now what is the idea behind me using big shoulder black? The idea is to create emphasis. So the theme of this design is expected to be the loudest. All right, so when you open this design, this revival agent text will literally be calling your attention, because that's the emphasis of this design. So it's the loudest on this design, revival agents. So can you see? So I made use of a big shoulder display black. All right, that's what I made use of. So it's the major emphasis on this design. All right, so now let's go ahead to the effects I made use of. Now when you look at the effects, you will see bevel and emboss. So this is the text. It's just a bare text, revival agent. All right, and I didn't make the text exactly straight. I made it look slant. All right, so let me show you guys what I mean when I say I made it look slant. So let me create a new text. No, not here. So not here. Yeah, so let me just create a new text. So let's assume we're having a text like this, and I write the text revival agents. All right, so this is the text, right? Revival agents. So I click on V, and I increase the size this way. So I didn't make this text to be straight, this revival agent. I made it slant. So this text is straight. So let's try to make it slant. So what you do is you hold your control, or you hold your command if you're using MacBook. You hold your control, and then you place it on this dot here, and then you left click, or you hold your mouse, and then you drag up like this. You are still holding your command or your control, and then you're holding your left click, and then you drag up this way to whatever measure you want it to be. Now you need to be very careful so you don't stretch it out this way, or you don't scatter it this way. You hold it softly, all right, and then you make it have this slope feel. All right, and then when you are done, you click OK, you click enter. So that was how I created this revival agent, and the idea is so that the text will not just be casual. The idea is the text should drive a point in the hearts of the people. So that's the idea behind making it slant the way it is. All right, so I'm going to delete this text, and I'm going to go back to the revival agents. Now I created some effects, which is bevel and emboss, all right, and drop shadow. So bevel and emboss it still helps to make the text not look bare, like just looking bare on the design. So bevel and emboss gives it this, this dominating feel. It gives it this bold feel. So when you look at it, I'm going to zoom in so you can see the text. Now you can see the bevel and emboss effect on the text. When you look at the text, you will see the effect. So let me click on the bevel and emboss effect, all right, and let me try to increase the depth. So once I try to increase the depth, you're going to see. So let me increase the depth. So once I increase the depth, you see the effect. Can you see the bevel and emboss effect? Can you see the bevel and emboss effect? But usually when making use of bevel and emboss, I don't like the effects to be too much. All right, especially when the color of my text is white. I usually keep the depth a little bit low. I usually keep the depth a little bit low, something like this, 95. All right, and the size, I don't make it too much or too less. I usually make it something, average in the middle. And I don't usually use this softening except for rare cases. All right, and then you can see the style is inner bevel, not outer bevel, inner bevel. So you can see the style. So that's bevel and emboss. And then when you come to shadow, I created shadow also for this design. You can see the opacity is 49. You can see the distance 76, spread 11, and the 57, the size, sorry, is 57. All right, so that's the effect I added on this design. And then we went ahead to add the venue and the date. All right, same text, same font, same typeface, same typeface, same typeface. When you see it, you still see that semi-bold, big shoulder, sorry, display that I used, but then I used the semi-bold family. All right, same also goes for this. All right, and then you see this thin line just demarcating. This thin line is to create a demarcation, the difference that this is a venue and this is the date and the time, to create a demarcation. All right, and then I went ahead to add the also ministering, the text, and then I added the names, now the names of the ministers, and then I added the USA flag. So when you look at this flag, I would disable the layer marks. So this flag is also an image that I downloaded. I placed it at the top here, and then using the gradient tool, I blended the flag to the background so that it can blend well. All right, so yeah, so that it can blend well. That's the importance of that. And then I went ahead to add the minister's name, and then I added the bottom text and the the rectangle at the bottom. So this is the breakdown of this flyer, and this is how I came up with this flyer. So when you look at the flyer, you're going to see that everything works together, blending well, speaking the message, saying the same theme, nothing different. When you are designing a flyer, the goal is to ensure that everything in the flyer communicates to the viewers the message of the flyer. So if you cannot achieve that on a particular design, that design cannot be successful. So that's the goal of every designer, to achieve the message. All right, to achieve the message. All right, guys, thank you so much for staying till the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much. I believe you've learned one or two from this tutorial. And I'd like to say, please, I would not be making the resource file of this design available. I'm not going to be making the resource file of this design available. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for staying to the end of this tutorial. Do well to anticipate the next tutorial. It's going to be massive. It's going to be mind-blowing. See you guys in my next tutorial.